She faked cancer, just to fund her affair. I lost everything until I found the emails. I need to vent because my world just turned upside down and I'm struggling to wrap my head around it. My wife faked a life-threatening illness to siphon money from me, only to lavish it on her secret lover. It feels like I'm trapped in a nightmare scripted for a low-budget drama. This is no fiction. I wish it were. Here's how it all began 6 months ago. My wife, Sarah, came to me in tears. I'll never forget that moment. She was curled up on the sofa, clutching a crumpled letter, trembling so violently I thought she was having a breakdown. When I sat beside her, she handed me the paper. It was a medical diagnosis, breast cancer stage 3. The words hit me like a freight train. My Sarah, my partner, was gravely ill. My mind reeled. I didn't know what to say, so I just held her as she sobbed. All I could think was, what's next? How do I support her? What if she doesn't make it? She told me she wasn't ready to share the news with anyone else, not her parents, not her friends. Because she didn't want their pity, she wanted to face this battle privately, just us two. At the time, it felt reasonable. Everyone processes tragedy differently, right? If she needed secrecy, I'd honor that. But things escalated quickly. Sarah said her doctor prescribed an intensive treatment plan, including immediate chemotherapy and a top specialist in another city. The problem, our insurance wouldn't cover it. The specialist was out of network, but supposedly one of the best. She looked at me with desperate eyes and said, "I just want to survive. Please trust me." I trusted her completely. I loved her. Without a second thought, I promised to do whatever it took. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into supporting her. I took on extra hours at work, sold my motorcycle to take the bus, and drained the savings we'd been stashing for our dream home. But looking back, I missed the red flags. Sarah's behavior shifted subtly. I blamed it on her illness at first, but now it's painfully clear she'd vanish for hours, claiming she was at medical appointments, but she always insisted on going alone. She said the treatments made her feel weak and unattractive, and she didn't want me to see her that way. It tore me apart to hear that, so I didn't push. I thought I was respecting her wishes. Then came the inconsistencies. She'd returned from supposed chemo sessions looking perfectly fine. No vomiting, no exhaustion, no hair thinning. When I asked, she brushed it off, saying she was fortunate to have mild side effects. "Guess I'm just tougher than most," she'd say with a laugh. I didn't know much about cancer treatments, so I believed her. I wanted to believe her, but last week, something undeniable happened. While tidying up, I found that diagnosis letter again, buried under papers on her desk. I don't know why, but I read it closely this time. Something felt off. The hospital logo looked blurry, like a cheap photocopy. The language was odd, with spelling errors. On a medical document, I told myself I was overthinking it, but the doubt wouldn't leave. So I visited the hospital's website and compared their letterhead to the one on Sarah's letter. They didn't match. My heart was pounding. My hands shook as I dialed the hospital and asked about the doctor named on the letter. The receptionist sounded puzzled. They had no doctor by that name, and their facility didn't even have an oncology wing. I hung up and sat there, frozen. My mind screamed, this can't be true, there's got to be an explanation. But deep down, I knew the truth. That night, I confronted Sarah. I showed her the letter and told her what I'd discovered. She stared at me for what felt like an eternity, then did something I'll never forget. She smirked. Not a guilty grimace or a nervous twitch, a cold, calculated smirk, like she was entertained that I'd caught her. "You weren't supposed to figure it out," she said calmly. No remorse, no excuses, just that. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever felt. This was my wife, the person I'd given my heart to, and she'd fabricated a cancer diagnosis to deceive me. I'd sacrificed everything for her, and it was all a lie. I'll share more when I have updates. For now, I just needed to get this out. Thanks for listening. Update after that night, when Sarah smirked and admitted I wasn't supposed to uncover her lie, I couldn't sleep. I was furious, heartbroken, and utterly baffled. Why would she do this? Where did all the money I gave her for treatments go? How could she look me in the eye so casually? The next day, I decided to dig deeper. I'll be honest. What I did next wasn't exactly above board, but after her betrayal, I didn't care. I logged into her email using an old password from when we planned a vacation together. She hadn't changed it. At first, I wasn't sure what I was searching for, but then I found a folder labeled Expenses. My stomach dropped when I opened it. There were forged receipts for chemo sessions, medications, and consultations with specialists. They were shoddily made, the kind of thing you could throw together in a basic word processor. But that wasn't the worst of it. In another email chain, I found messages with a guy named Ethan. The emails were graphic, stuff you can't unsee. At first, I thought it might be harmless online flirting, but as I read on, I realized this was far more serious. Ethan wasn't just a fling, he was her secret partner. My head was spinning. I couldn't process what I was seeing. But one question lingered. How did Ethan tie into the fake cancer scam? Then I found an email from Sarah to Ethan titled "Our Getaway." Attached was a receipt for a luxury resort in the Bahamas, flights, hotel, even couples massages, all paid for with my money. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Sarah had been funneling the funds I gave her for her treatments to finance her affair. I felt sick. All those late nights at work, all the sacrifices, all the fear I carried for her health, she was using it to fund her romance with this guy. I kept digging, unable to stop. Over the next few hours, I pieced together the full story from emails, receipts, and bank records. Sarah and Ethan had been together for nearly a year. The cancer ruse began 6 months ago, around the time Ethan got laid off. Sarah had been siphoning money from our shared account into a private one she'd opened, using it to bankroll Ethan's lifestyle. It wasn't just the Bahamas trip, covered his rent, bought him a new laptop, and even paid off his credit card debt. While I was killing myself to save her, she was playing benefactor to her unemployed lover. That evening, I confronted her again. This time, I didn't let her dodge me. I laid out everything: the fake receipts, the emails, the bank transfers, the payments for Ethan's lifestyle. She tried to deny it at first, claiming I'd misunderstood. But when I showed her the proof, she went quiet. After a long pause, she said, "I didn't expect you to dig this deep." That's when I snapped. I shouted, demanding to know why she'd betray me like this. Her answer: "You're too good to me. I knew you'd give me anything I asked for." Those words felt like a knife to my chest. She thought she could manipulate me because I loved her. She thought she was untouchable. But she didn't know I'd been saving every piece of evidence, every fake receipt, every transaction, every email. After our fight, I took action to protect myself. I contacted the bank to lock our joint account. I reached out to my attorney to start divorce proceedings and began compiling evidence for what I knew was coming. Then I found a calendar entry on her phone, a romantic dinner for two with Ethan, booked for this Friday. The same Ethan she'd been funding with my money. The same Ethan she'd thrown our marriage away for. I'm still reeling. Betrayed doesn't even begin to describe it. I gave her my all, trusted her completely, and she used me to support her affair with a deadbeat who couldn't even cover his own bills. But I'm not letting her get away with it. I have a plan, and she's going to face the consequences. I'll keep you posted. Final update: here's how I fought back. First, I secured my finances. I wasn't about to let Sarah take another cent. I went to the bank and froze our joint account, showing them the evidence, fake receipts, bank transfers, and proof of her payments to Ethan. The banker didn't hesitate to help. Then I called my lawyer. Luckily, I live in a state where infidelity can impact divorce settlements. My attorney was eager to use the evidence I'd gathered and advised me to keep documenting everything while avoiding further confrontations with Sarah until we had a strategy. In the meantime, I began untangling my life from hers. I changed the passwords on my email, phone, and even my streaming accounts. Those small wins felt surprisingly satisfying. I also moved into the spare bedroom and told Sarah I needed time to process. She didn't seem to care, probably thinking she still had the upper hand. She was wrong. Once my finances were safe, I decided it was time to expose her. Sarah had been hiding behind her fake illness for months, and I wasn't going to let her keep up the charade. First, I called her parents. They've always treated me like family, so this was a tough conversation. I told them everything: the fabricated diagnosis, the stolen money, the affair. They were skeptical until I sent them the proof. Her mother broke down and her father said he was done with her next. I reached out to our mutual friends. Most were appalled. A few doubted me at first, but the evidence changed their minds. They were livid. Sarah had milked their sympathy for months, and now her lies were unraveling. One friend who works in HR at Sarah's company took it upon themselves to forward my evidence to her employer. Sarah was fired the next day. With Sarah's reputation in tatters, I turned my attention to Ethan. Thanks to the receipts in her email, I knew where he lived. I didn't go there to start trouble. I'm not that guy. But I did bring a folder of evidence showing how Sarah had been funding his life with my money. When I knocked on his door, he looked puzzled. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Sarah's husband," I said. We need to talk." Ethan tried to play dumb, but when I handed him the folder, he went pale. He mumbled that he didn't know where the money came from. I didn't care. "Just so you know," I told him, "Sarah's cut off. No more cash, no more vacations, no more rent payments. You're on your own. Then I walked away. By now, I was ready to file for divorce. My lawyer had everything needed to ensure I came out ahead. Sarah tried to play the victim, even suggesting couples therapy to fix things. I wasn't falling for it. The day I served her divorce papers, I also gave her an eviction notice. What she didn't know was that the house was in my name. I'd bought it before we married, and I'd paid the mortgage ever since. Legally, she had no claim. She had 30 days to pack and leave. The look on her face when she realized she'd lost everything? Unforgettable. Then things took an even wilder turn. I got a message from someone unexpected, Ethan's wife, Mia. That's right, Ethan was married too. Mia had discovered the affair around the same time I did. She told me Ethan had been lying to her for months, claiming he was working late while he was out with Sarah. She also revealed that Sarah had been depositing money directly into Ethan's account, which he used for their lavish dates. Mia and I met for coffee to share our stories. She was just as devastated and angry as I was, and it felt good to connect with someone who got it. We decided to team up to ensure Sarah and Ethan faced the fallout. Mia filed for divorce too. Last I heard, Ethan was crashing in a cheap motel, and Sarah was bouncing between friends' couches, those who hadn't cut her off yet. If this story moved you, please give it a like, share it with others, and follow for more real-life stories and heartfelt experiences. Your support means everything, and it helps us share more stories like this. Thank you for reading, and I'll see you in the next one.